Welcome back. Welcome to the That's Club. This is the second episode, and we were excited. Actually, I was very anxious to start recording this episode because we had some issues here and there, health issues. So John couldn't actually join me, and I understand, like, everybody's going through the same thing. But my name is Pablo. I just want to introduce myself again. Noticing in the last episode, the first one, it was a lot of emotions going through my mind and my heart and all kinds of stuff. But we'll share this in another episode. But I just want to welcome you if you're watching this podcast for the first time and just when listening. We want to welcome you and say welcome to the Dad's Club. This is the second episode, and right here next to me, as you guys know, is my good friend and brother, John MAGPOC. John, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. Happy to be back. If you can't hear it in my voice, it's still just a little congested, but that's a life of a dad, right?
Flu season, man.
They bring in their bugs and their germs from school.
We call it the germ farm. They just bring all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's like not a vicious cycle, but it's a cycle for sure.
It is a cycle, man.
It just keeps happening. But I'm glad. I was just telling somebody, I'm glad it's happening now, where he's getting exposed because he's a COVID baby, right? He was like isolated for the first 2 years, literally.
Yeah, the same as him and Judah and Esme. They were literally just COVID babies because Esme was like not even a year when this hit, and all of a sudden just hit. Thank you, COVID. We don't appreciate that, but just want to remind everybody that if you're watching this show and this podcast and listening for the first time, first of all, if you're watching it, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. We are going to speak about a lot of stuff. And like I said before we started, we prayed and said, Lord God, help us to tell the truth. Sometimes the truth is going to hurt, and it's okay. We got to confront the truth, and that's how it is. It is the way it's supposed to be. But also, if you're listening for the first time in Apple Podcast, please just give us a good rate. Help us out with the algorithm, and let's just start and jump on top of this first topic. I was thinking about this the other day. This is something that just hit me really hard because it's the how do I explain this? In the past episode, we spoke about our parents and how we grew up, and a little bit, not that much, but we're going to open up a little bit more and more and more. One of the things we spoke about is, in my case, my dad was a pastor. He was a good provider, but I felt his absence in a lot of ways, right? And the thing is that we can actually explain everybody growing up, oh, my dad was this, and I learned this good habits, but there was something missing right there. And in my case, like I said, I just love my dad. I love my parents, but based on the circumstances, I think the lack of presence was there, and it did something in me that I didn't know I had it until years later. We spoke about different generations, the silent generation, the baby boomers, Gen Z, what was the next one? Millennials and Gen X and, alphas. We all have all this stuff, but, different generations approach their traumas in different ways. If we speak a little bit, and I'm not an expert in this, but I just I did a lot of research, and I've been doing research about the silent generation. Like, they call it silent generation for a reason. Just, don't say anything and just suck it up and keep on going. Yeah. The Gen Z, baby boomers, like, they were raised by the silent generation, so they did have the same amount of explanation just as the silent generation. Then so and so and so. So in our era, the millennials, we discover that mental health is something that it's needed in a lot of people, because we need to explain. I think it's something also based on the word and biblical, that we have to declare, we have to speak, and we have to open up so we can be free.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that it's been in my heart just to say, if you're going through something, if you're thinking about something right now, we can actually speak from experience, saying, hey, my dad wasn't perfect. The circumstances that I grew up probably were not perfect, but I am the person who I am today because I literally have to change. um, I just want to say something also, that based on this stuff, I was reading just a website, and all of a sudden it was given an example of two brothers. They grew up in the same household with the same dad. The dad was an alcoholic, and he was in drugs. He was doing a bunch of stuff that affected the two kids. One brother grew up to be an alcoholic and an addict. The other one grew up to be a successful businessman, and they sit down, the two brothers, and they ask him the same question: What made you uh, what made you do this the way you're doing, and what made you live the way you're doing? Oh, living right now. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer was, well, because my dad was an alcoholic. We have two different answers. Same input, same household, but two different answers. So that impacts a lot of people, and the way we can approach is, how can we help you to get better? What do you think, John?
Yeah. It's and it's definitely the way the Lord designed it. Whether you Yeah, I'm just gonna say that it's the way the Lord designed it is, we're not all supposed to experience the same things. Not all we're not all supposed to have the same family dynamics. We're all called to a specific walk and journey for a reason. And it's our testimony, what we've been
Yeah.
through. Um, the word of our mouth. What's that verse? I know I'm butchering the verse right now, but just about our testimony being the most powerful thing. And so yeah, your dad may not have been present, but mine was, but left early. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And all the memories and things that he's taught me, I'm always recalling. Always, like, I'll just be chopping an onion and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember when my dad told me not to put my fingers out, or I'm gonna chop my fingers off. Just things like the simple things, but you know, having lost him early and then not having the guidance from like 14 and on, um, was very difficult for someone like me.
Yep.
Somebody who did need, now that I'm
Guidance.
seeing it now,
Guidance.
not just seeing it now, but has seen it. Yeah, I need somebody to say, hey, and thankfully, the Lord brought those people, those father figures, those spiritual dads, who would walk alongside of me and say, hey, yeah, I love you like so much, but you're on the wrong path.
Mm.
The girl you're with right now, no. The lifestyle you're living right now, it's garbage, and because they weren't like my real dads, and because like there was just, again, just trauma and things I didn't work through, it was like I didn't want to hear what you had to say. Whether it was like,
Right.
if you take one more step, you're literally about to die, I wasn't going to listen to that.
Right.
Just because I was like, I needed to,
You were
I
hurt.
I was hurt, and I was trying to grieve, trying to figure out, and I was like, if I die, I die, and if I, and thankfully the Lord has given me so much grace and mercy to be where I am, and have gone through what I have gone through, because there are people who need to hear how I overcame and what my testimony was, and so I think that's how the Lord designed it. That's we're not supposed to. I'm supposed to learn from you, and you're supposed to learn from me,
Right.
based on how we the experiences that we face.
We go through, and like, can we chop a little bit on and touch the subject on? You said something right now, because I was hurt. I did this and this and this. Most of the time, even when we actually having an argument, in my case with my wife, like, because I say something mean, or which I'm actually working on. I'm actually working on it. We are trying to be better at having good, healthy arguments. I listen. Healthy arguments are going to help us to overcome a lot of stuff. But if we keep on having that mentality of hurting the other person because you hurt me, you said something like you went the extra mile, and I'm not going to listen to that. And I'm just going to probably, one of the things that I've done before is just walk away, or you keep on adding wood into the fire.
A fan in the flame.
Exactly. So that's actually not going to help the situation. That's for sure. If you're listening to this, if you are watching this, whatever you're going through right now, if you are facing pain, and if you're in a relationship right now, or you're going to have a relationship with somebody thinking about it, please examine it yourself. Make sure you are going through a path of reinforcing what you learned, but at the same time, getting out of this little path that you are right now. Because what it is if you go into an argument, you're going to get into an argument and you're going to hurt the other person. And that's how problems start actually coming out. Now, in your case, you said, I was hurt, and I was, I did things because of the pain that I had. So going back to this, and I'm sorry I put you on blast right now, but can you elaborate a little bit more in hey, I did this, but this is the way I overcame, like you said, you can actually just elaborate more in that sense.
Yeah, it's not like it's not a quick fix or a quick, like, yeah, like I messed up, lesson learned. Sometimes for myself, as stubborn as I am, and just could be just plain stupidity. It took me a few tries, took me, and so even with my relationship with Jamie, my wife, as you're talking about arguments and learning how to, like, one of the things, we're learning about, again, we definitely need counseling. I'm just putting that out there. Not as, again, it's not a negative thing. Yeah. It's not something, it's like getting your oil changed on your car. It's something you have to do. Yep. Maintenance. But working on our communication, working on our arguments, because arguments, when you get married, they're inevitable. I don't know any couple who I've ever met in my whole lifetime that has never been in a fight. Maybe there are couples who, get along a little better or communicate really well that don't fight as.
But that's a
often.
fantasy. That's a fantasy. I'll be honest with you. We gotta have an argument. You
You
live with this person. You live with the other person that is totally opposite from who you are.
Yeah.
And I mean, me and Maggie, we're totally opposite. Like, I mean, I sing. She doesn't sing. I'm sorry, in that sense. But she has a talent in drawing. I don't have the patience for that. I don't have patience for it. Things like, I don't know, different activities, or maybe different habits that probably she has, or she vice versa. If she has the same thing, she has no patience for, I try to explain sometimes, like, oh, this cable goes right here, because I like stuff like, I like gear. I like microphones. I like playing with stuff.
One wheeling.
Exactly. I like one wheel. I just try to explain that, little things like this are going to help us. Like the one wheel, it helps me. It helps me to get my head out of whatever I'm going through and just go outside really quick for 10 minutes. I promise you, it's 10 minutes. I just go around the block, and you saw it actually is blocked right now by the tree that it fell. It's horrible. But the differences between you and your spouse are going to be inevitable. And at the same time, it's beautiful, because you don't want to live with yourself 24/7. The being the what is it called? The surprise effect of I didn't expect this from you, or this, let's say you making me laugh, you making me or saying some stuff that, or it just inspired me to, when we started dating, inspired me to be in love with her and getting in love with her. I'm still in love with her, but it's a different love now that after 15 years,
Yeah.
1 5, yes. And we have 5 girls. We're going to have 5 girls. And then it's funny because I was telling Maggie, can you imagine right now we're going to have 5 girls, but we only going to celebrate 3 birthdays, which is super bizarre because we got to have 5 girls. But again, I'm not bragging. Hey, this is my life. I love it. I love the way it's turning right now. So, but one of the things again is, I think enjoying the differences in between you and your spouse. One of the things that I learned from somebody a long time ago is that, and this person actually told me, he was a little bit better when he told me this, that, the more the more, the longer you stay with the same person, you're not going to like certain stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I found this totally a lie in my case because I've been trying to work in things that are not supposed to be there. If I love this person, if I love my wife, in my case, I'm going to try to make a change. In other words, I got to do my work. I have to do my work. If not, this boat is going to sink. Totally. And you guys hear my daughter's raining right there. It's like, hey, this is the Dad's Club. Welcome.
This is reality.
This is the real life. This is what we're working out. At some point, God is going to give us a house. I believe it. But for now, this is what we have. So we're going to start. But going back to the doing your work, doing what you're supposed to do. If you're messing up the point that every time you guys fight for the same subject, the same topic, there's something wrong right there. It's like, are you changing stuff? Are you making a change in the way? And I'm gonna put it on me. I'm not putting it on my wife, and I'm putting it on me. I have to make the change so my wife doesn't get mad. So my life is not miserable because I make both of our lives miserable. And I don't think that's okay. I think there's a point where you got to say, I'm done with this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with who I am right now. And I don't want to just go through the same thing. But I think the most important thing is you have to do your work. You have to do the job. You got to keep on doing the job. And if you're listening right now, whoever's listening right now, any spouse, any husband, if you want a good, healthy marriage, you have to do your job.
Put the work in. Yeah. No, nothing that's worth having. I'm butchering the saying, but basically, if there's something worth having, it's going to take work. It's going to take work. There's nothing in this life that, and so that relates to my relationship with Jamie, my relationship with Judah, my relationship with you, with everybody, anything that's of worth to me,
right?
I've got to put the work in. And so going back to what you're saying about, recognizing our differences and adding to that is respecting the differences.
Yeah.
Knowing that Jamie's not going to understand, more than half of the things that my mind thinks of, in terms of technology and music and art and all that kind of stuff, she's never going to be on my level in terms, and I'm not expecting her to be. For me to expect her to do that is unfair to her.
Yeah.
And so respecting her, understanding like she's who she is and she's who God. Now, again, when it comes to like the arguments, and if we're not learning from our arguments, if we're not like putting in the work, understanding what made us so upset, why were we even fighting?
Let's just elaborate and just let's make sure what caused this, right?
Yeah, what if we're not learning from that, then there's definitely something individually, and this comes down to like I kind of like our troubleshooting mind's like, well, if we keep coming to this, there's another issue somewhere that we're so you have to look internally, like why does this keep triggering me? Why does this keep like occurring? And so sometimes it isn't us, where I have to be like, Jamie, sometimes when you continue to talk this way, and I'm so guilty, and I'll say it now, it's something that I'm working on, and it's not something that I'm proud of, but I yell. Because there's something in me that requires like understanding. There's something in me where like I need you to show me that you understand what I'm telling you. And when I don't get that, it's like, for some reason in my mind, I'm like, I have to elevate. I've got to raise my voice just a little bit more so that
I can be above you,
so that you will somehow.
Listen.
And so it's horrible. It's horrible. I know it is, but the Lord is. I feel like I've gotten way better, but it's just like, those are the things for me where I'm like, okay, like she is different. She's not going to understand. And raising my voice makes it even worse.
Way worse. Yeah. Yeah. Essentially, I know Jamie, she's a sweetheart, and she's not that loud. She sings well. Let me just put it this way. Jamie sings like an angel. She sings amazingly awesome. Her lungs are like amazing.
Oh, she got me. I was like, oh, she was singing in a play. She was singing a play. I was like 14. She was like 15, I think. She was Mary in some play we were doing at church, and she was singing. And I was like, who is that? Oh my gosh. Okay. Sorry.
You have to go back to those points when you're like, I fell in love with this person because of this. But going back to what we're saying, the do your work part, it's essential for you to survive. You're in a survival mode all the time between you and your couple, not because you are avoiding confrontation. One of the things that I don't like from a lot of people, and you know me, I confront the issue because sometimes it's like you said, you notice it's not probably, you keep on going back to the same issue, right? So the symptoms, that's what a lot of people calls it. You keep on having the same symptoms, but you don't treat the cause. So if I actually just sit down, and that's what I do sometimes. I just like, okay, I'll say, I'll be right back. Let me just think about it. Let me think about what we went through. And I try to explain myself in a way, because I'm like you in that sense. I yell. I don't want to yell. Now, lately, the last few years, I've been working on that. And like I said, hey, listen, this podcast is about trying to get better. We all have issues that we're working on. And those are my daughters in the background. But we all have issues that we're working on it because we want to get better. I really want to stay with my wife for another 45 years because I love her, because I really have a life ahead of me that I want to spend with her. And I'm going to do anything in my power to make sure I stay with her. So if you're a husband again, and you're going through a tough season with your spouse, I invite you to start doing the work and listen to what probably your spouse is saying, but at the same time, don't yell. In our case, like I said, it's just simply we're working on the stuff. And a lot of people I can see the smoke coming in. And it's like, oh, you guys say this, but you guys don't live. Like it doesn't matter. We are trying to get better. And that's actually, that's why I started actually the podcast, because I was going through something personal, not with my wife, but I was going through something that it cost me to just be distracted from actually talking with Maggie, or maybe putting my feelings into the table and saying, this is how I feel. And I just started looking for a dad podcast, right? I looked for this podcast. I think I mentioned this to you. That I found a bunch of podcasts about that here, that there. And there was actually a funny story, but I didn't want to listen to how to cheat your wife, how to make sure you don't get caught when you're cheating, how to hire the side chick, What the things that you can do with your side chick is like,
Jesus.
and then another podcast that was not even worth mentioning is just like totally the different, the opposite of what we actually saying right now and what we talking about. Because in my intentions is like, if I don't want to have somebody cheat on me, I'm not gonna do that because I don't want to feel. The Bible says like you gotta get it. You do stuff to others, so expect that the same result to you.
Mm-hmm.
What is that verse? Sorry, with a measure that you, what is this?
I'm sorry,
I forgot. I'm so lost right now. I'm sorry. We coming from church right now, and it's
right after church.
Right after church, we forgot the word. But you guys know what I'm saying. Like, don't expect different results when you actually pain somebody else with the differences that you don't want to have in your relationship. So let me just put it this way: if you cheat your wife, which shouldn't be, or even though, and I'm gonna say this, even though your spouse is giving you or is putting you in that position that you know that you don't want to probably have issues with her or him, or you making that your spouse is putting you in that positions to be in that situation that you probably start looking at somebody else besides your wife or your husband. Well, you need to talk about it. And that's exactly what I'm going back to: confrontation. A lot of people don't like confronting the issue. They just want to put a band-aid and that's it. Let's just keep on walking because you're going to be okay. It's going to heal. Most of the time it's actually not heal completely, and there's actually an infection. Now you got to treat it in a different way, not with band-aids. So that's one of the things I don't like. I don't know, John. I was like, I don't like. I like confrontation because I want to be confronted and I want to make sure I change. That's me.
Well, confrontation also, and I know you in your heart. It's a matter of also the truth being told. Because if we're if we're saying one thing, but we're not producing results, and we keep saying this is producing results, this is great, and we're not really telling the truth. Right. We're not being truthful with ourselves. We're not truthful with the situation, and I'm not going to be specific about anything right now, but and I think that's what bothers you and me about certain things is like, well, we're saying this, but that's not happening, and that's so when we confront things, being confrontational, some people see as negative, but I think in more than half the case, it's actually needed because there's got to be people, and I'm writing in my notes and, as we're talking, just so I could be a little more, keep my thoughts, just a little more organized. But, one of the problems that we're dealing with, in the world, if we want to get even, deeper about it, is this world is the problem with today's world is people are choosing to blatantly believe lies, basically to throw out the truth and believe lies. And if you don't believe the lies or believe what they believe,
right, then
you're canceled. You're not part, you're this extreme person who's, and
you're not following the agenda.
You're not following the agenda. Yeah. And so that's where, we have to make a stand in, I'm not saying go out and protest and do all these things, but I'm saying for your marriage, for your life, for who you are, and Jamie and I were just talking for the sake of seeing my boy growing up in this world,
right,
which is a crazy world right now. It takes us sowing the seeds saying, hey, this is right. This is wrong. What you're doing right now is wrong. This is what the word says. And if we use the word as our compass, which it should be, how could we go wrong? And so I just, we want to, I kind of got off the track, but I'm just thinking about, even the word just talking about in Galatians, and I'm not trying to preach, I promise. But Galatians 6:8 just talks about, Oh, darn, I just lost it. Darn these things. Galatians, whoever sows to please their flesh, from the flesh will reap destruction. Whoever sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life. And so whatever we're sowing into, sowing into our marriage, sowing into my own mentality and my spirituality, and sowing into like, okay, I know I need help in certain areas. I've had to go out and ask specific people, hey, I need you to be my accountability partner. I need you to speak into my life. We have to be intentional, like intentionally meet. I need to be able to spill my guts to you because, it's accountability. Going back to what we were even talking about in the last.
No, but going back to the first episode, that accountability, that's something that we lack a lot of people. I'm not gonna elaborate in this, but after this, there was a couple of guys I told you about accountability. So they watched and they listened the podcast, and we're gonna keep on pressuring on accountability. So, but yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's good. Because this, along with anybody else who's listening, like when you decide to make the right choices and sow into certain things, you're going to start seeing, not just in a selfish perspective, like I'm going to see like my bank account grow and my relationships are like, that's going to be great. But the Lord's even going to bring people to you who you probably don't ever speak to, or you're going to run into situations where like those seeds that you're sowing and those choices, right, those like intentional choices that you're making are going to open up things for you because, the Lord's trusting you with more. The Lord is trusting you. Like, I see what you're doing. I see the good seeds that you're sowing. I see the intentionality.
So if you're faithful in the little, if you're faithful in the little.
So, my marriage isn't little. We're 12, almost 13 years in, and I'm never going to say, I'm never going to say, I know I have the exact equation. I know exactly how, I know what makes Jamie tick, and I know, I'm never going to know. I'm never going to, but if I can be humble about it and just be like, Lord, humble me today.
But that's one of the things that it just gets me, it just triggers me, right? Because you see this podcast is like, okay, 1 year marriage, and they just like, let's start a podcast. We got a lot of experience. Like, bro, you don't even know.
You don't know half.
You don't know half of what you actually going through and what you're gonna get through.
You're getting yourself into.
My gosh, like that's one of the things that it triggered me because I heard this podcast and looking for the Dad's Club and stuff like that. It just came up, and then I saw it, and then I was like, they mentioned they were married for 1 year, and I started laughing because they were talking something very rehearsed in practice. They just literally wrote it down, and this is what we are. This is what we do. Like let me just put it this way. In the Dad's Club right now, we try to be real. My kids are literally right outside, like in the hallway, and I love them, and I know they're making a little bit of noise, but that's how it is. Reality. I mean, listen, the reality is this: you're gonna be a dad. You're going to have noise. You're not going to have that peaceful day, probably in the whole day. When they take a nap, probably when they go to sleep, you're going to have your time. But that's exactly one of the things is confronting what it's actually in front of you. Many, many times. I just see the benefit of confronting what we went through. And then just displaying this, I'm sorry, we're going back to it, but we've been 35 minutes into this. But we just want to make sure that we finish this part of the podcast saying that what you've been through, what you're going through, it's a symptom of what's happening. It's just the surface. It's not the whole thing.
Yeah.
You have to elaborate. You have to sit down and think about what is going on in my life that is causing this, or it's causing my wife to go nuts. What it's going on right now. So I don't have to go back to it. I mean, it's essential. You go to therapy, and I just see the benefit in that, saying this is what it is. So I think to the point of therapy will help a lot of couples. Therapy, like you said, it will help to discover maybe those feelings, because most of the time, let's just put it this way, most of the time, men are not very good explaining how they feel.
Garbage. Trash.
But let's be honest, let's be real. That's most of the time, that's one of the things that I've seen it a lot of, actually, in my culture, the Hispanic culture. You have the macho man, you have probably that figure in your mind to say that I'm a man, I'm the provider, I'm this and this and that. But let me just ask you this: have you been a dad? Have you been a husband today? Have you been that person who your wife relies on? Have you been that person where your kids are not afraid of you just because you got home and everybody's going to be quiet? Just let them be loud. I mean, yes, sometimes they got to go crazy and they drive you crazy because you need a little bit of moment of peace. I get it. You've been in the whole day working from 6 o'clock in the morning all the way to 5 o'clock, and it's almost going to be 12 hours working right there. I get it. But you have to make sure, before you get to that point, know yourself. Know yourself. And then don't overreact. And like I said, that's one of the things I was confronted this week again by my sister-in-law, who actually watched the podcast. And it's just like, my wife was talking to her and FaceTiming. And shout out to my sister-in-law. Thank you so much for reminding me. But you need accountability in that sense. So they were having a conversation, and the girls were this and this, and I just raised my voice and like, please just keep it quiet, right? And then that's when my sister-in-law was like, well, remember you said it in the podcast? Like, oh, I said, oh shoot, I yes, I did. So one of the things that I also learned throughout the years, and that this is why the Bible, God's word, always says you have to be reminded about the goodness of God. You have to be reminded about the promises of God. You have to be reminded that you were saved by grace. You have to be reminded. So that actually makes me think. If I have to be reminded about one thing, about one subject, I have to be reminded about a lot of things. That's why accountability, it's so important, because it gets you back on track. If you're getting off track, accountability is going to help you to realize, I said, oh my goodness, I messed up. I got to get back on track. And then just once again, asking for forgiveness, not sorry, forgiveness. Asking for forgiveness is going to help you a long way. It helped me a long way. And not only actually asking for forgiveness and say sorry about maybe if you got cut, not being sorry because you got cut, sorry because you want to fix the things.
Yeah, being humble about the situation. And yeah, I think that's where what we're all kind of missing, and I think is the underlying theme, of most issues. And so what's the opposite of being humble is what? Pride. Right?
Yep.
And so
pride comes before the fall.
Right. And so I just actually wrote this down here. When you start to tell yourself, I can fix this on my own, I could do this on my own,
sorry,
you've already failed.
Sorry to tell you that.
You have failed, because I have said that in my mind. I have said that in my heart over certain situations, and a year.
You throwing bumps right now, bro.
Less than a year.
You throwing bumps.
I'm like failing miserably, and I'm just like at the bottom. And so that, constantly being humbling ourselves. If we walk in humbleness, I think that, that helps things. And it's hard in a marriage setting. It's so hard because you want to, going back to what we were talking about, being the provider, being the person who has it all together.
Right.
There is pride in that. Like I want to take pride in being the one that everybody can come to. But if you're not humble, you're setting yourself up for failure. And it's like the things that you think you have together, it's not true. It's not truth. And so for anybody who's listening, whoever is whether you're married or not, coming to that place of, of yourself and of where I don't got it all together. But but I'm doing the things, I'm like therapy and counseling, accountability, mentorship,
doing your work,
doing the work. You're getting tools from others, tools that I don't have.
Right.
You're getting things to help me get through this life a lot better because you helped me understand a part of myself. That my counselor, my therapist, has helped me understand a part of myself that is toxic, or the Lord, more importantly, has shown me areas in my life where I'm like,
yeah, when he says the Lord is God, if you're not a Christian, that's what Christians relate to God, the Lord, because it is.
I mean, and where I've not surrendered, aspects of myself, and it's just a daily death to self, a daily like coming to my knees and saying I don't have it all
I don't
together.
have to figure it out.
I don't, but I'm learning, and I want to be a perpetual learner, a perpetual student. Like never think I've got it together. And if I ever get to that place, I need you, Pablo, to knock me down.
I'll be there. I'll be there for that.
Take me down.
What I want you guys to understand is, me and John, we have this relationship that we built over the years because we were not always good friends. We knew each other. We know both of us have skills. Like we both play guitars. We both play different instruments, multi-instruments, but he has other things that I don't have. I have other things that he has, and we complete each other in a different way when we start working together. Mm-hmm. It's the same way with marriage. There's some differences in your life, in your skills, in your in the way that you grow up that are going to be complemented with your spouse, mm-hmm. that are going to help you to grow, or they're going to help you to mess it up.
Yeah.
One thing I can say is that Maggie has been helping me to be accountable financially.
Same.
Yes, as I become actually more and more vulnerable in the things that I say, my wife has been actually helping me more and more to be accountable financially. Because for me, I can just spend a heck of money and a lot of stuff, and you can see actually what's going on right here. But this is actually something that I've been working on, and like I say, I'm an audio engineer, and I did a lot of work for different people. So here and there, I have an extra income, extra stuff that I put it into the equipment and stuff like that. Like I have the cameras, I have all the stuff. I'm a one-man band right now, to be honest with you, and this is something that I'm gonna put my resources to work. Something that I think and I feel that this is something that God is calling me to do, to speak, to say something, because one thing I've learned is if you start hiding stuff, everything comes up to the light, and then it's gonna be worse. If you try to correct your kids, and this is part of the accountability part. If you correct your kids, and if they lie to you, and you find out that they lie to you, you are not actually the man you're supposed to be correcting your kids. Mm. If you're lying to your wife, if you're lying to your spouse, you're not the man who needs to be correcting your kids. Mm. It goes back to the story of the woman who was found in sinning, sexual sin, and they brought it to Jesus to be stoned. According to the law of Moses, she was supposed to be stoned. But again, I found myself asking, so where's the guy? Is it just her?
Yeah.
No, it's actually a work of two. It's either you mess up, not by yourself, but you mess up because you didn't have accountability. But throw the stone once you actually not in fault. Throw the stone once you actually have nothing no issue behind you, no tell that somebody can actually step on, because it makes me feel bad. One time that actually I was correcting my daughter maybe a couple of years ago, and she lied to me. This little, she lied to me, and I can see it because I have the cameras in my house, and I just went and saw it, and she lied completely. But I was not actually being honest with my wife and a lot of stuff. And that's the moment that I realized I was like, I have to be accountable. That's actually 2020 when God, the first in January, God literally spoke to my heart personally and said, you have to be accountable to your marriage. You have to be accountable to your wife because of your kids, because of what I want you to be, because I want you to be a different person, not the same one. I think I got tired just to say, I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be like finding myself correcting my kids when I do the opposite. It goes back to a lot of pastors. It goes back to a lot of ministers. It goes back to a lot of people who are preaching the gospel right now is live. I'm sorry I'm throwing into this, but live what you preach.
Yeah.
And we all have that stage in our lives. I have a stage as a parent. I have a stage as a dad, as a husband. So live what you actually preach. And that's what I'm going back again to do the work.
Yeah.
Do your work. Work on it. I know it's gonna be hard. God knows, let me tell you this. God knows it's gonna take time. God knows you're gonna mess up again. But as long as you know you're doing the work and you try to get better and trying to be better, you're always going to find a way to make sure you don't go back to that. Again, the Bible reminds us all the time that we have to be reminded about the goodness of God, be reminded about this and that, be reminded about different topics in life that are not going to help us, or going to help us, that are going to help us to not mess up again, to going back to the same issues that we have. What do you think about this, bro?
Yeah. I completely agree. It's we're never going to be perfect.
We're far from
as
that.
much as we want to be, or even are telling ourselves that. If you're telling yourself that right now, again,
Be careful with that. Be careful.
Good luck with that. And we're all this to say, again, we're not the experts. We have gone through stuff. We are going through stuff. And I'm going to put that out there. I've been handling our finances for the past 10, 11 years. And this year I had to be like, I honestly don't know what I'm doing when it comes to, savings, when it comes to like buying a house, credit, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, who am I kidding? I don't know. I need to get educated if we're trying to get ahead and buy a house. So we had to knock down, drag out, but I had to say, hey, I really don't know what I'm doing. And when it comes to this, it's scary to me. I'll even say it's even scary to me.
I think it's hard for a man to recognize that.
Yeah,
we don't have it all figured out. It's just, just because we're guys or we're men, we don't have it figured out. And like I said, it's just probably how you grow up, probably how you develop your life in different ways.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Like I said, my dad was a good provider, but he never sat down with me and say, okay, let's go through the finances.
Same. I've never had that sit down. And my mom was the one who was probably the better, accountant in the family. But, when it comes to my family right now, and Jamie, she's not going to be like, I know everything, but she, in this time and space and in this time in this season specifically, I've got to humble myself and just be like, hey, this is something that you need to take on right now, and and ever since then, I've seen just potential, like just exponential growth in how we're, not that I was like horrible at it. Yeah, there was aspects where I'm like, hey, I got a little extra. I'm going to go ahead and spend it on something that,
it's totally not worth it.
Totally not worth it. And building those disciplines and things like that. But yeah, just I had to come to myself come to that
realization,
humbleness, and like, hey, right now, let me get educated. In the meantime, like, you can't, like, I need you to take this.
In my case, I literally just have a person right now that I'm accountable to, and I just tell them like, hey, can you pray for me? I really want to buy this. Mm-hmm. He's like, do you have the money? I say yes, but I don't want to buy it because I don't need it. He's like, oh, you're going the right way. You don't need it? Do you need it? No. Okay. All right, cool. I mean, we can go in different ways. Like I said, that could become an addiction. Mm-hmm. That could become something that is going to put you away from being that relationship that you're actually working on. Are you going to go back? Maybe. But are you going to keep on going forward? You have to at all costs, right? So that's something that it's in my horizon, just to make sure every single day I just submit myself. And that's one of the things I have in this book. And I was reading that submission, it's something that we need to learn. Let's go jump into this topic really quick. Submission. I said last week that when you submit to God, you're going to have a good relationship with your wife. That's for sure. I've been actually having this relationship with God since March last year, when I literally told myself I want to make sure I want to start waking up before I go to work, before I start doing any computer stuff, and spend time with God and just praying. You want to just say, oh, meditating and stuff like that. Okay, dude. Yeah. The word says in Psalms that we have to meditate in the word of God so we can actually become better. Mm-hmm. The more you spend time with God, the more you die. And dead men and dead bodies don't feel anything. The more you spend time with God, the more you die. The more you're going to be confronted. I've been confronted at 5 o'clock or 5:15 in the morning sometimes by God. And I just like, wow, I didn't think it was going to be this way. Wow, I didn't think it was going to be you telling me this stuff. I thought you going to love me and just say good stuff to me and just keep on going, encouraging me, because life is so hard. Like, come on, let's just get up. Get up from the floor. Just stop crying and then be a man and then confront your issue. I have to realize back then that I had a lot of issues that I needed to be confronted. And I just brought it to my wife. And I'll be honest with you, I just went on my knees and I said, forgive me for doing this. And she was like, but like I said, probably you didn't know this, but I don't want this to become something that it is going to put me, or just, I don't want to break anything. Mm-hmm. And I was telling you last week, I got this realization in this picture. As I look at to my daughters, what are they doing? I got this picture of trust, right? The last episode we talked about a trust in faith. Faith, it's something that God requires, but not trust. Trust is something that you're gonna acquire with time. And when you break that trust, it's like a vessel that you just goes in different 1,000 pieces, and when you try to put it all back together and glue it together, it's not going to be the same. Yeah. It has probably different shape, but you can make it work. Mm. And when you break that trust, it's going to become something that is going to be a reminder when you put the vessel back again with the flowers. And it was like, man, I messed up. And I think we need that as a guys, as men. We need that to be reminded again of like, please forgive me. And that's why I'm going back to this, to the element of submit to God and actually submit to your wife too. In the sense that you don't know everything. Probably you know how to work. Probably you know how to use tools. Probably you know how to do this, this, and this. And you saying, I don't know probably the financial way that probably you see, or I'm tend to more actually spend more in different stuff that are not actually a priority, like my family, like my girls, in my case, like going on vacation and stuff like that. Like we are trying to buy a house right now. We're trying to cut expenses. So I have to literally just work on myself and not buying stuff and use what I have already. And thank God, and I appreciate it. God has been supplying. He's been helping me to buy the equipment that I need that I have right now, so you guys can watch all this. But it's gonna be used for this podcast. It's gonna be used for something that I had the vision at some point, and but going back to we have to submit ourselves. I just want to finish this part of the podcast that it hurts is the most difficult part when you submit yourself
Yeah.
as a man, as a guy, as a person, even actually as a in your I work. Submitting yourself to say I made a mistake. That's always going to be an issue. And going back to it, confront the issue. Confront the issue. It'll give you help. It'll give you and open up a door of truth that you never knew it was there. And you'll be free. You'll have peace. We confront the issue, we'll have peace. If you confront the issue again, you'll have peace.
Yeah. Yeah. Drop the mic right there. I mean, because that's just what it comes down to. It's because happiness comes and goes, but peace and
maybe we could call it happiness. Like sometimes it's just
and that's
a band-aid.
that's I feel like that's even more like of a selfish term. Like if I'm happiness, if I'm happy, or this, you're never gonna be like satisfied.
Right.
But to make the right choices, sewing into aspects of your mental and spiritual and physical health. Even I'm trying to challenge myself to do more exercising. I played basketball yesterday.
Where?
At the church.
Oh, really?
I was like, after the first game.
I'm afraid.
After the first game, I was so gassed, and I was like, "This is not good." I'm not. I don't feel old, but my body is like. But you're not taking care of me, so what do you expect?
Yeah.
And so
I think we're going back to we always come up with that analogy is like, oh, I'm 40 years old in my case. I'm 40 years. I'm old. Not really. I mean, if you're gonna go run, if you're gonna start exercising, like I used to play a lot of basketball. You know that I used to play a lot of basketball, but I mean, life happened. I started actually getting married, and I got married. I started having kids, and I mean, your body is not the same. Your body's not the same. I get it, but at the same time, we were in actually better shape. I'm not in good shape. I'll be honest with you. I really
we're in a type of shape.
Yeah,
round is probably one of those shapes. But that's what all comes down to. It's like, do we should I eat better? Absolutely. Should I exercise more? Yes. Am I doing that? No. And so it's simple as that. In simple terms, and I know we've gone deep in a lot of aspects of our conversation here today, but don't overthink it.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's a very simple process.
It really is, and we want to. Not in the sake of keeping lighthearted, because we've got to be true. We got to talk about the truth, and there are aspects where you got to take a hard look. You got to bring out the magnifying glass and take a really, really hard look in the mirror and be like, "Oh,
listen." Ugh. I think we complicate stuff when we start hiding stuff.
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
I mean, we complicate stuff. Just think about it. Just have that thought right now and just hold it over there. You complicate, and just that doesn't just apply for marriage people or couples. That applies to single people in your life. When you start hiding stuff, you complicate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was blah 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 and blah, and then you start explaining. You try to actually cover up a lot of stuff. When you complicate stuff, and I just thought about it the other day, and I was like, I'm complicating. It's just, why is it complicated? Because I did this. Because I didn't want to confront the truth, or I didn't actually just want to say what it was. And going back to trying to find out with my daughter that she was lying or not, when I found out she was lying, it hit me. It hit me. She was complicating the stuff, and I was getting angry. Because, well, not angry. I was disappointed. I'm not gonna say that because I didn't yell, nothing like that. I just literally just went kind of like ballistic in the sense that I did not like what she said, and I found out it was like the opposite. So that's exactly what I was disappointed.
Was she 5, 6?
Well, they're six. They're six, both of them.
But yeah, you're a 6-year-old. Why are you complicating your life with trying to lie about things? You know,
but what she said, because I was the way I reacted, or the way I could react.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with her mom, right? I was like, okay, yeah, because sometimes I just tell them, don't do that, and they see my face. Like, my wife actually tells me this stuff a lot. It's like, you look at your face, look at your reactions, and I actually look at it in the first episode. Because I was down for what I was going through. Again, I'm going to go through this in another episode. But what I was going through right now, I mean, at that point, in that first episode, it was something that I was not feeling the best. I didn't want to do it. I'll be honest with you. But I felt that we had to do it. And it was just, okay, it's here, right? And you can see my face, my expression, even though my mouth, the way I talk, I was like this, and I was not even moving my mouth, and I can feel it. I was like, I can see I was sad. I can see I was going through something. Not like I said, this is not going through something with my wife. It was something in a different way. But in another episode, we'll actually elaborate that.
We'll get there.
And my wife tells me all the time that the way I show my face, when I even actually get mad at the girls, it says a lot.
You wear it on your sleeve, basically.
Like,
yep. That's the term, but like, I'm the same way. If I'm bothered, if I'm like, something's annoying me, or it's I'm not fooling anybody.
Well, I mean, we're the same way in that sense, because you and I were, like I said, we cannot hide. We don't want to listen to somebody. Mm-hmm. There's a person, I'm not going to say, that sometimes when he comes and asks me for help, and it's the same thing. And I already told you, and I already explained that person. I already explained that person how to fix the issue. And you keep on coming again and again. And I was like, okay, I'm losing it right now. I was like, do you understand what I'm doing? Let me explain it to you. And my face, you can see my face. Actually, somebody told me the other day, I was like, I think your face was a little bit showing. I was like, okay, I gotta just calm down. And I just gotta go through a 3-second of, okay, breathe, and that's it. Just don't overreact. And like I said, our faces show a lot. So, but I take in consideration all the time, like, yeah, I don't like when my wife says, boy, your face looks evil. And I was like, and I just have to change it. I just slow down. Like, okay, all right, I'm not gonna get mad. I'm just gonna take what she said, and I'm gonna elaborate. And I'm just gonna, okay, let's just gather again, and let's talk about this. Because if that actually is a reaction to my daughter, it was confirmed when she told me, well, because I'm afraid. I was like, but I didn't spank you. Well, I didn't. But it's just the face. I was like,
there's so many times I've been in trouble with my dad, and he didn't have to say a word. It was then I got that look. I inherited that look of, you keep it up, you're about to get beat. And yeah, Jamie tells me all the time, like, hey, you're giving him the look right now. But no, I mean, yeah, it doesn't take a whole lot. And I think where we're going with this is, we've got to be that much more aware of ourselves, how we how we handle situations, how we handle this and that, and specifically with my wife, with Jamie, how she's starting to talk about a topic that's very uncomfortable to me. How am I going to respond to this? Am I going to shut down? If I shut down, she's going to read that. If I decide to try to quickly move it along and just say, oh yeah, whatever, yeah, she's going to catch on to that.
Try to ignore it. Yeah.
So it's like, the clear answer is quit complicating it.
Going back
to it and just, hey, that's your wife's language, love languages. And we can talk about that in other episodes too.
Yeah, I have that, because
that's a great topic right there. Love languages. Yeah. Because boy,
what's your love language?
I'm a physical guy.
I am too.
And I think that's like the top one, but the other ones are. And yeah, I think most guys are, anyways. Well, I don't know.
Well,
no,
like I said, there's some.
no.
I met some guys that are like, you can't even just give them a hug. It's like, hey, bro, I love you. I was like, yeah, I don't like that.
No, I know plenty of guys like that.
I was like, but I'm like that. I was like, you come and give me a hug. I was like, oh, I feel appreciated.
Yeah,
everything is forgiven. I forget about everything.
What was I mad about you? Oh, yeah. No, and I've told Jamie that so many times. I'm like, all of this can be fixed if you just touch my knee. It's like silly.
I mean, we don't have to elaborate. We don't have to go have sex.
Yeah,
it's just simply that I don't want that. It's just like, oh, okay.
You don't even have to say sorry to
Nothing.
me. If you just give me a little touch on the shoulder, I'm butter at that point. I'm like, whatever you want. I'm cool.
But I mean, like, so we have to understand that we grew up different from our wives, right?
Oh yeah.
They didn't have this that like your dad, right? Even my dad, actually, he was very affectionate.
My dad too.
He just gave me a lot of affection. My mom too, but she was more the corrective way in the house. So, but yeah, my dad was very affectionate. Like he gave me a lot of affection. He gave me a lot of hugs. He used to play with me in that sense. And like I said, my dad was not a bad person. And don't make it seem like I'm trying to just elaborate something against my dad. Like, I love my parents. I have my parents in my life, and I love them. I love them.
Yeah.
And I got that. So if my wife comes to me and she's like, at least just saying thanks for trying. I was like, oh, that feels good.
Oh.
Or thanks for actually just doing something. Because okay, let me just explain. We as guys, we have to get told, or somebody has to come and tell us what to do. And that goes for wives. If you're expecting your husband to do something and you're expecting it by not saying it, it's not going to happen. You have to tell him, can you please move or do the dishes while I'm actually going to the store? Because if you don't tell us, we're not going to do it. It's not because we don't want to do it. It's simply I don't know why. I mean, John, I don't know why. That's how we wired, or that's how God wired up. But I went through this. Like I said in the first episode, I talked about going through the marriage council. There was actually a program called Laugh of Your Marriage or something like that.
Laugh Your Way Through Marriage.
Exactly. Not Michael Gunger, it's Mark Gunger. Mark Gunger. If you guys, if he's still actually just
I think all that is still available.
It's a great program. It's a great.
You can YouTube anything.
Yeah, you can YouTube anything. Mark Gunger. Try to look it up, and it helped me a lot to understand the different. He calls it countries. My wife is a fun country and very. Let's explore. I'm more of a controlling and more technical and more this and this and this. And it just, to me, I can see it in a picture and see, oh, okay, so I'm this way. Oh, okay, this is the way she is. So let me just put it this way. A lot of things, Mark says that the girls are wired differently. They have a connection for this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And for us, the guys, one connection right here goes to the other one, and that's it. A, B. From girls, A goes to C, from C to E, C to B, and then going back and forward. Again, girls, if you expect your husband to do something for you, just ask. There's nothing wrong in asking. Amen. Don't expect us to do something when you didn't actually ask to do it. So, going back to it. I mean, it's gonna help you. It's gonna help you, guys. If you're newlywed or something like that, please tell the guy. Can you help me just get the groceries from the truck, or I don't know, anything that you want the guy or the boy to do. Just ask. That's gonna be a great advice. I'm not gonna charge for that, but it's been helping me a lot. And I just have to remind sometimes my wife is like, "You didn't ask me," and she's like, well, I expect you to do like, no, I don't work like that. I mean, yes, you're right. Probably I just put my plate back and I forgot to put it back. But normally I'm the one actually putting all the plates back. And having kids, it helps you to be reminded about all this stuff. It's been helping me a lot. Having all my bazillion kids, my wife in my house, it helped me to realize a lot of stuff about why we expect things from other people, uh, but we don't explain how to do it. So let me just elaborate. My girls know that after they eat, they need to put their plate back into the sink so we can actually wash it. Okay. But it helps sometimes, but we got to remind them because they get distracted from a lot of things. And at the beginning, when I started actually just explaining to the girls this stuff and try to train them into get it into this rhythm, I just lost the patience and I just kind of started telling them and I raised my voice and so and so and so. So my wife sit down with me and she said, you need to remind them. They're at that point, they were like 4 years old. They're 4 years old. They're 2 years old. They're whatever. Now they're 6 years old and still actually tell them, pick up your plate until it actually becomes a habit. But what I'm saying is this. If we expect something from somebody and we don't actually explain how we feel about it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I think you just said one of the magic words, which is expectation. Like, are we setting, and I think about my team, I think about the people that I communicate with on the weekly. You know, I just had a meeting with some folks, and are my expectations clear? You know what I'm saying? And it goes back to what you're saying is like, yeah, there should be chivalry, right? Chivalry being like, I should be opening doors for Jamie. I should be carrying heavy stuff for her. I should be doing stuff like that. That
I used to probably do.
That before. A gentleman, should do for a woman. And those are things that my dad taught me, being chivalrous.
You know what?
But and guys, if you're listening,
we lost values like that.
If you need to be, the chivalry is not dead. You need to learn them, and if you don't know them, come see us. I'm not an expert, but I think I know. But anyhow, when it comes to expectations, what you're saying is, I expect you to do this and that, but it's like, well, how am I supposed to know that's what you're expecting if you're not just? And so I'm the same way. If you want anything from me, all you need to do is ask.
We're in a podcast, baby. Thank you.
All you need to do is just not even say please, and that's icing on the cake. That's great. Right. But even if just like, I would still love to be asked.
Yeah.
And so those expectations, setting that early with your girlfriend, your spouse, whatever it is, making those super clear. Like, I've had to tell Jamie so many times, like, I want to help you. I'm here. I want to help in any way that I can. But if you're not telling me that you need help and you're just kind of doing everything, like, how am I supposed to know that you needed help? Yep. Was I supposed to know that? And there's that thing of,
that's what there's that part of expectations. Yeah.
There's those differences between men and women. Women are, I'm emotional. I would like to say, I think you're emotional too, yeah. But women are on a whole nother level, and they operate in that mode more so in a, but I'm not trying to digress. I'm just saying, when it comes to the differences, if those expectations are not clear, I think we've come a long way, and those expectations are a lot clearer than they were at the beginning of our marriage. But I'm having to do that with Judah, where it's like, I'm telling you no because this is the expectation from you. And like what you're saying for your girls, like, we're expecting you to clean up after yourself. This isn't like just because we're having rules. This is because this is going to help you in the future. Sure. When you have your own family, when you've got a husband, and like, they're gonna expect you to clean up after yourself.
Clean up after yourself, yeah.
And to be neat and tidy and do the right things. And so that's what I'm saying when it comes to expectations. It's not wrong to have them. We have an expectation on each other. I have an expectation on what God can do for me. I have an expectation but like, I have to be honest. There's really no limit with God, but with my wife, with you, with anybody else, if I didn't give you a chance to know what my expectations are, then I'm it's an uphill battle for me, and I'm going to find myself getting frustrated.
I think there's a point where you get frustrated when you try to explain the same thing over and over again. Like I said, going back to, explaining to my girls that they need to pick up their plate after they're done so they can put it actually into the dishwasher or whatever. Just put it into the sink, right? But it goes back to anything we do, that if we expect people to react the same way or a different way that we just set up our mind, essentially your husband, like, let me just put it this way: if your husband comes, let me elaborate. In going through the day, your husband goes 6:30 in the morning, goes to work, gets yelled out by his boss. The probably the people at work, they're not actually just the best people, or they're just messing with them or something like that. It's gonna create some sort of a stress. Now he's done waiting to go back to the house and find that, now you need to do this, now you need to do that, and you didn't explain, or woman or spouse, if you did not explain what your expectations are when you come home, I think, to me, in my case, yeah, the effect of surprise effect, or whatever you want to call it, like unexpected stuff, or the say, or even the faces, like going back to faces, I can read my wife's face when she's not happy, and I just try to do something for her. I was like, hey, can I do something for you? And then she can actually just elaborate. So guys, it goes both ways. Guys, please just ask. Also, if you trying to actually not go in a fight, or just an argument, or anything you want to call it like that, but if you don't want to try to go into that motion of interaction, we call it the intense fellowship. We don't want to go into that. Just ask. The same way for the girls. Just ask the boy, ask the guy, just to do something for you. Hey, can you just throw? I mean, in my case, I know my responsibility before we got married. That's one of the things that I want to tell you this. When we went through the pre-marriage counsel, sorry, not counsel, not counsel. We went through who's gonna do in this and this and this when you get married.
Roles,
exactly. So my role now, it's been for all of this 15 years, is my wife doesn't actually touch the trash. I do the trash all the time. You can ask her. You can actually just text her right now if you know her, and she's going to tell you Pablo's been taking care of the trash for all this 15 years. That's my role. I know that. I'm wired now to understand that Pablo's role is to take care of the trash. With that alone comes another things like, I want to help my wife to do the dishes. Now that she's pregnant and she can't move that much, I have to understand as a husband, be comprehensive in understanding that my wife cannot move that much.
Yeah.
Sometimes I got to tell her, please don't move. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Sometimes she wakes me out in the middle of the night. She doesn't want to wake me up, but I wake up and just, hey, do you need something? Well, I need to go to the bathroom. Okay, let me help you out to get stand up. Because I have to understand what we're going through, both of us.
Yeah.
She's carrying, if you guys didn't know, she's carrying 2 lives, a pair of twins again, and then have to be considerate of what she's going through. Mm-hmm. Her body's changing, hormones are changing, and I'll be honest with you, my wife has been pretty stable, and I'm not trying to actually make her mad or nothing. We'll just go nuts. And so I just try to away from that, stay away from it. And in the sense that I want to help my wife. In my heart, if I want to make things easier in my marriage or in any relationship, it's take ownership of what you're going through. Know what you're going through as well. And move forward so you can actually carry a little. Sometimes times are going to be different. In this time of my life, I have to carry it a little bit more. I have to go drop off my girls at school, come home, probably just make some breakfast for not only prepare lunches, prepare this and that, but because we're going through a different season, I have to be considerate of the changes. I'm not going to sit down and I'm just going to just enjoy a cup of coffee. Probably I'm going to have 5 minutes to enjoy my cup of coffee and then just keep on going. So boys, or whoever's listening to this, whoever's watching this, please be considerate of your partner. Please consider the other person, and then goes back to my wife in this case, or the wives, our wives. Please be considerate and sometimes ask what you need, because sometimes we're dumb. We're just very distracted. You're just playing with something else. Probably in our head goes totally different way. lay your head, and you're thinking probably ahead of the situation, but we don't. We probably just looking what we have in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually comes back to mind when we were in a season, because we do fostering. My wife and I, you know, our our home, you know, is what we've explained to our social workers is we want to adopt. But in this last season where we've had a little girl that we were fostering, um, we had a home of two kids. We had two kids in our home under the age of 2 years old, which I think anybody understands who has had children. That's difficult. That's a very difficult season, and you know the way where our life is set up is, you know, right now at that point I was taking on a lot of the responsibilities, a lot of, you know, her. We have a beautiful, the Lord, I'll say, God has made it very, has blessed us with the ability to work together,
Mm.
which a lot of husbands can't say.
Nope.
I actually prayed for that, and be careful what you pray for and ask for, because the Lord will. I prayed, we prayed together. I said, God, give us a creative way where we can work together. We could be together all the time.
There you go.
Boom. So our work comes home with us and stays with us. And so we've, you know, so I'm getting sidetracked. But so anyhow, she would apologize to me where she's like, I'm sorry, I don't have anything cooked. I don't have anything, like the house is a mess. I don't have anything cooked. And I'm like, I almost wanted to cry, because I'm like, one,
Don't
never
feel
in
this.
my whole marriage, I'm like, I've never put that expectation on
Nope.
you. Like,
Me too.
you do not have to cook or think that you need to clean or need to do this, and that. I'm like, I get it. Your full-time job right now is taking care of two kids under 2 years old. Like that's the season we're in right now. And so we've had to have those
Wow,
conversations.
that's
Like,
nice.
and so that's a sweet part. You know, that's where, you know, coming to, like, you know, she didn't get mad that, you know, and never came across in my mind like, oh my gosh, there's no food on the table for me and I'm coming home. That,
And then you
like,
overreact and you start going and just leave the house.
yeah. So I'm just like, have grace for your significant other. Have that grace. Have that, like, understand what they're dealing with too. Because
Yeah.
yeah,
To
you
be
got
considerate.
Pablo give you one side where it's, I mean, not just one side. There's other aspects, but you know, one side where, yeah, I'm doing with so much at work, doing this, having to, but you also, you know, as a man, as a living being, as a person, you got to be considerate of where people are at and what stage and what season of life they're in, and just be, you know, try to be sensitive to that. And so, you know, a lot of times, excuse me, dealing, just having to remind myself, like, it's not a game. It's not comparison here. We're not
No,
competing
back to,
against
oh
each
my
other.
gosh. We can talk
This
about
isn't
that all day
this
long.
isn't like this I'm doing more than you kind of thing. This is just like, hey, like,
We
our expectations, we've got to maybe lighten up a little bit, but at the same time also be very, again, just being very clear. Like, I'm not expecting you to clean. I'm not expecting you to cook. I'm just like, we got our roles. We've talked about what our roles are, and let's do that. Let's stick to that, and you know, and not
we
overcomplicate.
can go through a whole, probably a whole
There's a
episode about
whole,
competing,
yeah.
huh?
Jeez.
Because yeah, we're not against each other. No.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just goes to the fact of this. We are a team. We need to play as a team. I don't know. Probably I'm just Scottie Pippen and you're Michael Jordan, or vice versa. I'm Michael Jordan and I make the shots. You give me the pass. But you're as essential as I am. So we are gonna um, consider to be considered.
Yeah. Not everybody's a scorer.
No,
Some people shoot the basket more than others. Some
I
people
like.
just set screens and pass. Like, that's, you know, but knowing what your role is, and like knowing what you're really, really good at. Like, I'm
Right.
really, really good at organizing, and I'm really good at kind of seeing where things are cluttered in the house. And I know, I can cook, I can wash dishes. I know, I've been house
Because
changed.
you live by yourself too. I
Yeah.
live by myself too. Like in the first episode we talked about we live in the same building, different apartments, but that's how we met each other. I was like, oh look,
Yeah. But I can't expect Jamie if she I'm I'm so thankful to God that she can cook and she can throw down. Oh my gosh.
Mm.
But I'm just like, if she can't cook, if she's horrible at cooking, it would be incredibly wrong for me to be like, I expect you to learn how to cook and do it well.
That's a macho mentality. Let me just put it that way. Because let me just say this: when me and my wife we went through the marriage council, she was very clear. She was like, "I'm not the typical Mexican. You're gonna have your plate when you come home from work and blah blah blah." And I'm very independent. Let me just put it this way: most of you girls, you are a very independent woman, and you can for yourself and cook for other people. But we're not competing. Going back to that word, but
Mhm.
we don't want to elaborate in that. Yes, we're not competing. And we just want to finish with this.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're like 1 hour and 30 minutes. Thank you. Thanks for staying with us. Thanks for listening. But yeah, this is what it goes through our mind. And we had to record today. Today is Sunday. After church, we just literally probably were. I know you were playing all day. I was doing sound all day too, with and then taking care of some of the stuff. But yeah, we're glad that these topics are actually we're touching some topics that are not in a lot of men's group are touched, or there are a lot of people just go through it.
Mhm.
Because we always say, in a lot of groups or men groups, at churches, they just say about, I'm going through this, but I know God has the answer, but I know the Lord is with me and blah 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 blah. Can you just elaborate that you actually are broken inside?
Yeah.
And just make sure that we all know we can actually pray for, or just uh say the things that you need to say just to get it out of your system. That's all it is, guys. We're tired. We're really tired. I am very tired right now. I love doing this podcast. We gotta my goal with John is gonna be that we have to do this every week, so we can actually just put some content. We gotta put some stuff. So follow us. What do you subscribe, share. This is something that is gonna help somebody. And like I said, I already got some people writing me. Is like, hey man, you guys are just touching things that not not a lot of guys actually are going through, or they're going through it, but they don't want to talk about it. So yes, that's why we have this podcast. And it's not only for guys, it's not only for just the both of us. Is I'm gonna bring another guest. We spoke about Jason. Jason has been actually super busy right now, so I'm not gonna bother him until he actually just have some free time. But I'm gonna bring other people who are gonna speak about finances. That's probably my next goal, to talk about finances. This is a very touchy subject, finances. I'm gonna bring people who are seasoned, who are in a different season of their life, and who are looking actually just to give wisdom to young people. The young people need wisdom. The young people need wisdom. So the only way to give wisdom is to sit down and listen.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can actually elaborate. But we just want to say thank you to everybody who's been watching this. John, do you want to close with something?
Yeah. No, I want. Well, I think it would be okay for me to say that. We also want to make sure that this is interactive as well. Like if there are certain things that we've talked about that are striking the chord with you, striking the note with you, or you have questions that you want us to handle online or offline, that you want us to share with others, find us on Instagram, JJ MAGPOC, PabMag, PABMAGG, right?
Yep.
Yeah, find us on Instagram or however ways where you can find us. I'm sure Pablo will put our tags somewhere on the screen.
We have a TikTok account too.
Yeah, well, you have. I'm not into TikTok, whatever. But
no, but that's what has.
Yeah.
I don't like TikTok for personal stuff. It's just simply we have a TikTok, the
For Dad's Club.
For Dad's Club.
Yeah. So we would love for you to send over questions, in comments, anything.
Do you have a topic? Also, if you have a topic that you want us to discuss, also just let us know. Let us know so we can actually elaborate and investigate a little bit of why why you want to talk about this. Just give us a little reference.
Yeah, and like Pablo said, thanks for listening. I know we've gone a little long, and we'll I think in coming episodes we'll probably be even a little more intentional about our time. But this is new for us. Yeah. This is new for you guys. This is this is content that's it's not revolutionary or anything, but it's just two guys sharing our experiences as fathers, as married men, as husbands, as friends, as colleagues. We're colleagues too, all those. And so any way that we can share experience and help you all walk through this journey in life, that's what this is for.
We are going through the same thing. Yeah. It's how we actually approach those things. Mm-hmm. Thank you for watching again. If you're watching this for the first time, thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe, press the notification button, press the bell button, and so we can actually start giving more content. The more you subscribe, or the more people you subscribe, we're gonna actually just get more exposure, and this is gonna help us to grow. This is going to be a community. I really want to have this as a community of not only guys, but even my wife. Like I said, my wife was actually saying that she want to take over this podcast. So I said, hey, we're going to sit down probably after she's, gave birth to the girls. And I don't know how that's going to happen, but it's going to happen. She's really encouraging and saying a lot of stuff. And I'm sure you guys want to hear my wife.
Get the wives on.
Taking over. I can be the cameraman. I don't mind.
Or we're with the kids.
Yeah, or we're with the kids. Listen, this is real life. You guys heard my girls running and stumping and making a lot of noise. It doesn't bother me, to be honest with you. It is what it is. It is. That's what life is. Parent, dad life. So follow us on Instagram as well. And we have our personal channels as well. If you want to follow us, that'll be great. So thank you all so much. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.